Hello and welcome to The Print. I am Sourav Barman. In this episode of Soft Cover, we will be launching the scam that shook a nation. The Nagarwala Scandal, authored by Prakash Patra and Rasheed Kidwai, who have very graciously joined us today. Mr. Prakash Patra is a senior journalist, and he began his career as a crime reporter with the National Herald in 1980. And he has worked with the pioneer Hindustan Times and the Telegraph over the subsequent years. And he has been a political reporter as well. And he has also been a member of the Press Council of India. He has also written scripts for 2 films, one of which has won a national award. Welcome, Mr. Patra.
Thank you.
Rasheed Kidwai is also joining us, the co-author of the book. Rasheed Kidwai is a senior journalist. He's an author, columnist. Right now, he's a visiting fellow with the ORF, the Observer Research Foundation. And he is a former associate editor at the Telegraph. Mr. Kidwai has written extensively. He has written books on the Congress Party, particularly, including Sonia Gandhi, a biography, 24 Akbar Road, the House of Scindias, among others. Welcome, Mr. Kidwai.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So this book, The Scam That Shook a Nation, it takes a deep dive into a very, very unusual development that created a sensation over 5 decades ago in 1971. It is a factual narration of that episode, which was set in motion on 24th May 1971, when the chief cashier of the State Bank of India, Parliament Street branch in New Delhi, Ved Prakash Malhotra, received a call on a telephone on his desk. The voice on the other end claimed that he was PN Haksar, the secretary of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And Mr. Haksar purportedly told Mr. Malhotra that he had a very secret matter to discuss, and that the PM wanted rupees 60 lakh of a very secretive nature of work. Obviously, Mr. Malhotra was initially hesitating, and a female voice came on the line at that very point, and she introduced herself as the Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. And she said, we need this money for a very important secret work. And that essentially was the beginning of what would later come to be known as the Nagarwala Scandal. So first, I would like to go to Mr. Patra. If you could tell us in a nutshell about this scandal that very, very few Indians, especially young Indians, know about.
Yeah, you have already narrated. So on the basis of that telephone call, the chief cashier, he handed over 60 lakhs to Mr. Nagarwala. And then Nagarwala took the money and, he kind of, in between, while going, Nagarwala told him that he will take him to the airport. But on the way, he stopped the car and he took the money in a taxi. And then he told him that he's getting late and he should go to the Prime Minister's office to collect the receipt. And he went home to the airport, supposedly. Then, in the meantime, Malhotra went to the Prime Minister's office, Prime Minister's residence. He was told that Prime Minister is busy in Parliament. That was the first day of Parliament. And then he went to Parliament, wanted to meet Mrs. Gandhi, couldn't meet. And, he went back to the residence and then back to the office. And after some time, he met Mr. Haksar, who told him that no such call was made by the Prime Minister or by him. So then Nagarwala realized that, the cashier realized that he has been cheated. He went to the police directly to the police station and narrated the story to the DK Kashyap, who was the IPS officer And on that day, there was a demonstration at boat club. So he went to the boat club and met the IPS officer, narrated the entire event. Then they went to the police station, and the IPS officer Kashyap, he wireless the message to all over, and then the car was traced. The car in which Nagarwala had travelled, that car was traced in Chanakyapuri area. They went there, got hold of the driver, and on the basis of the information that he gave, the Kashyap managed to uh, track down, and they recovered the cash, and then they arrested Nagarwala. That's the brief, the crime story is.
My next question is to both of you. Public memory in India is notoriously short. So now, obviously, it's been over 5 decades, and very few people know about this scandal. So, what really prompted both of you to write a whole book on this issue? And what was the first conversation that you had among yourselves when you started, discussing?
Rasheed,
so I think,
can answer.
this was a fascinating story, and you see, we as journalists were aware of it, and then we thought of it, and that it should be converted into a book because it had a lot of angles and perspective, and a very kind of racy story. Fact of the matter is, nowadays sort of you and people of your generation or younger people are aware of lot of technology driven frauds that are taking place in banking sector and several other sector. And imagine this fraud took place when there was very little use of technology, only a telephone, that to a landline telephone led to this kind of working of it. So therefore, if you look at the cover of the book, that old telephone picture is also is there, just to show that. So basically the idea was to familiarize the young readers, people, millennium kids, and general readers, that a big scandal of that nature had happened, and how the police had investigated, how the sort of commission of inquiry dealt with it, and how the political class on the one side was of course Indira Gandhi, on the other side was Morarji Desai, how they dealt with it. So the entire episode is very engaging, and but it had a lot of challenges were there, finding references, facts, figures, and that's where I would thank my friend and my senior, Mr. Prakash Patra, immensely, because you see, he's a crime reporter. He has eye for details, and he was very good about verifying, cross-checking facts, references, everything. And then Mr. Patra, with a lot of efforts, I have no hesitation in saying, he got hold of that Reddy Commission of Inquiry report, and that was a very valuable document. He also had a lot of police documents and access to those things. So he actually kind of rebuilt that entire case, and that is where, so the kind of conversation we had, we divided sort of chapters among us, but I would say that with a sense of gratitude, that it's largely a work or efforts of Mr. Prakash
It's a team effort. It's not. We also collected some papers in National Archives. All government records, the files have been transferred to National Archives. They are there. So we managed to track all those papers, went through the original, affidavits and the case file, also other documents and correspondence between departments and police and ministries, and also with the leaders. So we went through all the original documents and collected the facts from there. And besides, see, this is a scam. Everybody has been talking about it. Well, politicians particularly after the change of Congress government. Like when this incident happened, I was in school. But we have been hearing about it from time to time. At the time of elections, someone would mention. And even when we were reporting, that time also there would be some reference to other scandals like Jeep scandal, Nagarwala scandal, all kinds of issues. People used to read. That is why we are curious in knowing what was that scandal all about. That's how we got interested in it.
I think 10 years after the scandal, you became a journalist. I think in 1980. So clearly, when you started as a reporter, when both of you started as reporters, this issue was still alive and it was still being written about in newspapers. So what was the kind of coverage that newspapers gave to this scandal back then?
To 1980, by 1980, when I became a reporter, Indira Gandhi had already come to power. Only that report became public. That was in 79 or 80. This thing had died down in 1980. So that time people were not talking about Nagarwala Scandal, but subsequently when Congress, every time it got dislodged, people used to record all those scams.
Mm-hmm.
But about the coverage that yes, the newspapers in 72, 73, they did extensive coverage on this scandal, Nagarwala scandal.
Yeah, I would just add a bit. Sourav. You see, what had happened today, we find that the media generally there's a criticism also that media is very sort of say motivated, and sometimes it is highly politicized. Even at that time, and this was a kind of revelation, though we didn't deal with role of media in this book. Mr. Patra was actually was very tempted to prepare a chapter on it. But fact of the matter was that media was also little, I would say, motivated, because there was a lot of campaign was there against Indira Gandhi, and this case was built by a section of media as something that as if it was Indira Gandhi is doing. The Commission of Inquiry doesn't say it so. It actually gives a clean sheet to Indira Gandhi. But that's the thing. So the coverage was, I would say, when I looked at that, the old references and files and newspaper clippings and all, it was little. There some people had more than I would say journalistic interest, and the others were little indifferent. So that kind of thing, that media bias, I think this was also an interesting side thing, that it also existed in 1970s. It's not something that is very new now.
That's very interesting. So in piecing together the entire narrative, in writing the book, so what are the kind of documents that you had to rely on? You have already mentioned some, but did you also have to go for filing RTI applications? Did you see any sort of resistance from the government in terms of sharing those files, making those files public for you? Did you face those kind of...
because all the papers are sorry. Yes, come again. All the papers are in the National Archives.
Okay.
All the official documents are part of the archives record, so one can access it. There are about thousands of pages, all the affidavits, all these papers, the bank account of the person who said that who has been cheated by Nagarwala, even his passport, and the documents which were seized from Nagarwala's that Dharamsala room. They're all part of the National Archives records. Police case diary, and then the court judgments. We didn't have to go anywhere, excepting for certain newspaper clippings and to access other material. But as far as the case is concerned, most of the documents, 99% of the documents are there in the National Archives.
Right. Mr. Kidwai, you want to add something?
So yeah, so I think Mr. Patra is of course making it. There was a lot of hard work actually was there, and particularly so I think
you have to look for.
It is So he's like kind of underplaying that. See, this is actually a very without getting into specifics. So this thing is also a telling commentary on our in our country. We don't have that kind of things about archives and sort of classifying it, documenting it. A lot of effort is happening now. Of course, National Archives is doing it. Things are being digitalized and all. So it's not that, but it's a quite an effort actually to get hold of documents and government reports and government reports.
It took us for about a week or so to trace the commission report, because that to the records, it has been kept under a different head, that is the Saha Commission records. So accidentally we came across that these papers are also part of the Saha Commission records, not been listed as Reddy Commission on Nagarwala. So now they are digitizing it.
Yeah. So if
Sorry, go ahead.
some Ferengi journalist had come or researcher would not have just seen the Shah Commission and gone home. So that is what I'm saying. So Mr. Patra, that kind of street smartness actually played a role here. And on a more serious thing that you're saying, there were a lot of references we had to actually, if this happens in any, writing of any book and all, we had to actually, not to include certain material. So there's a lot of motivated, as I said, politically motivated or wrong this thing. And there were, of course, you see in our references, there were two books were written, earlier. But those books were, what should I say? I mean, it was so Patra may like to come in here, but it was more like a flight of fantasy, and where facts were certainly a casualty.
No, one of the authors, of that book, when he was called by the commission, he said that it's a fiction. But at that particular time, that book had sold, I believe, had done very well. But later, when before the commission, he said it's a fiction. It's not facts. 80% fiction and 20% facts.
So that author wrote the book after Indira Gandhi was unseated in 77.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Apart from these motivations among authors or even in media houses, the fact is India's involvement in the liberation war of Bangladesh was evident. In the month of May 1971, it may have been covert, but over the next subsequent few months, it became very open.
Yeah.
India got involved very openly. So do you think that also played a role in fanning these conspiracy theories that the money was going to be used for the war in Bangladesh? Indira Gandhi was secretly sending money to Bangladesh. Do you think that also played a role?
Well, that was the charge. Rasheed, that was the charge. Some people, please.
No, Pataji, you complete your sentence.
No, you please go ahead, Rasheed.
So I'm saying this was also a major challenge, Sourav, that when writing the book, there were several motives were there. I can just randomly say about this particular thing that you're talking about, Bangladesh war thing. There was always a thing of, our country earlier, Indira Gandhi also, and the present dispensation also has a lot of this thing about foreign hand. So there is also a talk of a lot of foreign hand, political conspiracy, deep state playing a role. Now, as sort of Patraji is the crime reporter. Of course, he's a very good political journalist. I'm a political journalist. So we had to decipher, and we had to be very careful not to attach any of these labels or motives without ascertaining facts. So we have gone by facts of the case as those were available before the commission during the police investigation, reported in media. There were a lot of this wild allegation and charges were made. But because, and perhaps there was some kind of, sort of, I would say, a grain of truth in it. But the book conclusively does not point at any of this. We talk about it, but it is very difficult to prove. And of course, you are a journalist, and importance of facts. So it's not about whether somebody is going to like it or not like it. So these things were actually major challenges when you had so many, very tempting, very plausible kind of, theories, and those things were flouted. So just to restrain ourselves and stick to facts and authentic information, reference-based information. So this was also a challenge, but a lot of it is being said, and of course, fingers have been pointed at various aspects.
No, as I started off saying it's a factual narration of what happened, and it is a very objective account. But you also raise certain questions in the book, and you leave it to the readers to interpret. So one of the questions you raise is that the fact that the Reddy Commission, which was set up after Janata Party came to power, after Indira Gandhi was unseated, they did not really go into the foreign links of Mr. Nagarwala, his supposed girlfriend who used to work in the US Embassy. They did not really investigate those angles. Why do you think that happened?
Hindustan Times carried a story that reporter asked then Mr. Desai that you didn't allow them to investigate this foreign angle as that foreign ladies connection. But Morarji point blank, if you said, no, I don't remember. But that's also curious that why didn't they follow up that lead? It was quite an obvious lead because this lady was there, and most of the people, those who have given made submissions before the commission, they also referred to that embassy lady. Nagarwala had stayed with her in Japan for 2 years or some 2-3 years. So obviously the intelligence, they should have probed into that angle, but they didn't. We don't have any reasons. Like we can't say that why.
Yeah. Again, sort of coming on this, actually, we have seen our experience as political journalists. We have seen that the political class, generally, regardless of political parties, they have a lot of interest in, in these kind of, so to say, controversies and scandal till it suits them politically. Once, they kind of, in this case, Morarji Desai and Janata Party coming to power and all, they just, this is my perception, they just lost interest in it. It was of no kind of this thing, so reaching to unearthing
Yeah,
something
true.
as reaching to a truth, it becomes secondary. It is that political, scoring a political point, and when it is not fetching, then it is of no consequence. I'll give you another example.
Yeah.
Both me and Mr. Patra, we covered PV Narasimha Rao's tenure. A lot of scandals were there, at least allegations of scandal. Till the time Narasimha Rao was in power, all those scandals, those Harshad Mehta scandal, that Lakhubai Pathak case, fertilizer scam, gold star scam, so many things. I'm forgetting half of the scandals now, but there were 7-8 scandals were there of very serious nature. The moment Mr. Narasimha Rao, demitted office and became a kind of private citizen, all those things sort of died down. And recently I saw when Narasimha Rao was conferred Bharat Ratna, the person who received it was also one of the accused in one of those cases, and he was happily receiving it from President of India. So this is actually a very telling commentary on how our political class functions and perceives these scandals.
Right. In fact, even Mr. Morarji Desai, after he became the Prime Minister, he deposed before the commission, and even he did not really raise any major questions. Right. He did not try to draw
No,
Indira
he
Gandhi
didn't.
into the scandal.
He didn't raise the major issues because whatever he said, he was making his statement like he said that these are conjectures. He didn't come with any specific charge against Indira Gandhi. That's true. Morarji also.
Morarji also.
Sorry.
No, I mean, there were consistent attempts to try and link somehow the Gandhi family with Nagarwala. The fact that Nagarwala supposedly met Indira Gandhi twice in the past, but no one could really prove that.
Yeah, no one could prove that.
Did the Reddy Commission even try and establish any link?
Yeah, they did talk to the officers. Then those officers who worked in the PMO, the link was that Nagarwala used to write letters to Prime Minister's office, and then earlier he had come and met Mrs. Gandhi. Mrs. Gandhi said that she used to meet people in the public meetings, and he may have met her, but. They did try. The commission did look into all the papers. The CBI had passed on the papers for the Prime Minister's, Mrs. Usha Bhagat, who was the Social Secretary, or letters to the commission, trying to establish some kind of link. But they were in general kind of letters that he wanted to meet her. She said, "You can't meet her," and some other time we'll meet. Then he did meet once or at least once. That's on the record. But with that particular one meeting, you can't say that she knew her that well, or she knew him. She knew Nagarwala that way. From one meeting, you can't establish that. But yes, he had met her once, and he used to write letters. He had once written even a letter telling her that she should mediate in that US-Vietnam crisis.
Yes.
So it was there, general kind of things. But it has not been established that, she knew Mrs. Gandhi very well. From the papers, at least, we didn't come across any facts to establish that much.
Right. Mr. Kidwai, you have also mentioned in the book that it is also a fact that Mrs. Gandhi was also trying to keep herself abreast of the developments in the case. She was doing it through the Home Secretary, through her cousin in the Delhi police, Mr. Kaul.
Yeah, and I think Indira Gandhi initially, took it very sort of whiff of a scandal very lightly, and she was not, because remember Indira Gandhi in 71 war was 71 general election was very significant, and the opposition was totally demoralized, and and she came and established herself very well as Prime Minister of India. So therefore she had very scant regard initially for this kind of thing, and later on when she realized that there was this is the kind of insinuation that is being built, and such allegations have been made not only about her but about her son, so she became, but I don't think she was overtly very conscious of it. At another level, that in the previous question that you had asked, see, I also say that this P. Jagan Mohan Commission report of inquiry tells us that the judge was very meticulous and judge was very serious. So it was not a kind of quasi-political appointment to fix Indira Gandhi also, and he was quite balanced, and we must give it to him. And he this is also this thing about that era, that the former Prime Minister and the existing Prime Minister, they deposed before the commission gave written submission, etc. So the commission was performing its job rather seriously. It is that political class, those opponents, those people of Janata Party, that Bharatiya Janata Sangh and all, they seem to have lost interest, and they were just wanted to score a political point. And after Indira Gandhi's defeat, they thought that political point has been made.
But what explains the unusual rush that was on display right after Mr. Nagarwala was arrested? The unusual rush on the part of the police as well as the magistrate court, which was also questioned by the commission. What explained that rush?
Yeah, that is actually the interesting thing. See, this police officer was young. This was his first major case. So they thought that by hastening the process, going through that quick he will kind of get some kind of recognition. It was over enthusiasm on the part of the police. And to your earlier question, that you said that was he interested in knowing about the case? That yes, she must have, because when the allegations were made, so Home Minister has said that that time the Home Minister, he had said that he tried to find out some details. I'm 100% sure, when such an event takes place involving her name, she must be interested in the case. But the visit of that, another police officer had taken exception to the presence of Mrs. Gandhi's cousin, Gautam Kaul, who was an IPS officer. So in his statement, he has said that he was doing that job on behalf of the Commissioner of Police, IGP, because he was in charge of the press. And of course, the Secretary to Prime Minister, Joint Secretary, Mr. B.N. Tandon, who subsequently became, Principal Secretary to Mr. Bajpayee during his 13-day tenure. He was working in the PMO with Mrs. Gandhi that time. He had visited the police station. That is how this was raised, that Indira Gandhi had taken interest in the case.
In fact, even apart from Mrs. Gandhi, even Sanjay Gandhi's name cropped up in the case.
Sanjay Gandhi's name cropped up, but the Reddy Commission found out that no, it's not possible that the money was given to Sanjay Gandhi. There is one chapter we have devoted on that. That this money was meant for Sanjay's Maruti project. That was what was the allegation in a section of media that time. But the Reddy Commission found out the details from another commission about which was probing into Maruti affairs, that this commission was registered much later, and the incident had taken place. Nagarwala incident was before. So that is why they say that Reddy said that it's not likely that this money was meant for that project or Sanjay Gandhi was given. So he gave it to Sanjay Gandhi.
And sort of talking about that kind of enthusiasm, I think that's also you have to look at that money angle. The major money thing. We have kind of with this on the internet-based the credible agencies that what was 60 lakhs now, so it turned out to be 170 crore rupees and more in
Yes.
that present this thing. So at that time, SBI officials, maybe perhaps at informal level, had announced that a reward of 50,000 rupees. So 50,000 rupees was also a very substantive amount. So the police officers, we have mentioned this in the book also, that they were
Yeah.
also very enthusiastic about this whole thing, that we'll get some reward, some 50,000 rupees reward. Even if it's to be split into team, it would have been very substantive.
And not only that, it was a sensational case. Since the case has been worked out in 24 hours time, was a big achievement for Delhi police that time.
But unfortunately, the investigating officer, he passed away in an accident. I think that added to the sensation. That added
to the sensation.
But since you have read that book, Sourav, you see, there was a very free case. I mean, there was a horse, and Fatehpur Sikri, and literally a horse went berserk. So, I mean, again, those people who, of course, firmly believe in conspiracy angle would say that. But as authors, we were not too sure whether there was a conspiracy, particularly of that incident, because I mean, somebody is going after post-wedding, some mannat they had, so they were going to, Agra and Fatehpur Sikri, and suddenly that that horse will turn berserk, and that would result in this kind of accident. I don't know, what is Patraji, what is your?
No, that added to the mystery. Like otherwise, I don't know. Like the commission had examined so many people, related to that case, the Kashyap's death. He couldn't find anything wrong in that. He also said that it's a case of accident. The commission also held the view that it was the Kashyap died and it was an accident. Didn't find anything fishy that needed to be probed.
But the Reddy Commission was clearly not very convinced with the police investigation. In fact, Justice Reddy was not convinced that Nagarwala could mimic Indira Gandhi's voice. He was not even convinced.
Yeah, that Reddy says that yes, even if he could mimic, he couldn't have mimicked the voice of Mrs. Gandhi. That's his opinion. But there are people like those who have given affidavits saying that he could mimic, and he did. Some people who are convinced that he could mimic the voice of Mrs. Gandhi. But Justice Reddy was not convinced. That's true. We have mentioned that.
Right. Yes. I mean, I'm quoting from the book. In fact, you also mentioned how even Advani was not convinced that he could mimic.
Mr. Advani in jail tried to beat him. He also believed that he couldn't mimic Mrs. Gandhi well. But there are others. The jail superintendent said that he could, and there was another, his jail inmate. He also said that he could mimic Mrs. Gandhi's voice. So it depends. Like we can't say because there's no, kind of scientific taste or anything. So that time you have to go by that. So Justice Reddy went by people's evidence given by some people, and he accepted one version, he rejected the other people's version.
Mr. Kidwai, would you agree that when you go through the conclusions, you of course went through the conclusions of the Reddy Commission. So do you feel even the Reddy Commission report keeps the mystery alive till date?
Absolutely, I think that's a thing, and that's of course a element of tragedy is also there. That while I say that this Justice Reddy was very meticulous and all, but because he did not get full cooperation from the government and from the political class and from people who mattered, so therefore even a good job, but it yielded nothing in the sense that it was also raised more questions than answering them, and that's a real a tragedy. At a broader level, let's say that several commissions of inquiry have been there in various cases relating to whether it was Harshad Mehta or communal disturbances. We have a very easy, very set pattern that you look at, Godhra, what happened in Godhra. There were so many commissions of inquiry were there by Supreme Court, retired Supreme Court, and serving, judges. But they generally end up, this thing, trying to find out what is already known, and there is very little headway. And they have a sort of element of mystery and controversy. So this is perhaps this was a trendsetter, I would say, and it's followed.
In fact, you also
And
mentioned
there's a bit of delay also. There's a bit of delay also, because see, there's a gap of 6 or 7 years. So for Reddy to find out those details, the time, he couldn't have.
Patraji, would you like to comment on bureaucracy also, the role of bureaucracy?
No, see, there's nothing much about bureaucracy's involvement in this book, but
No, I think the commission report being followed up and all.
no, they went by the standard procedure, because on the this Reddy Commission report was examined by officials, the joint secretaries and secretaries. They didn't find anything to be followed. Follow-up action. Because when a commission recommends certain things, then the officials go through that and they suggest measures to be taken. So they just recommended that a standard procedure that did. But there was no.
But the CBI was
Sorry?
willing to do a follow-up of the case.
No, CBI was not interested in doing the follow-up of the case, the reinvestigate the case. And in any case that no one was interested after the government was changed in 1980. So everything was nobody took any interest. So the case was closed. The file was closed.
But you also mentioned that how file has gone missing from the records. You in fact,
sorry?
in the concluding paragraph of the book, you write how one particular file has gone missing.
Yeah, which it was not given back to the government. It was the CBI or somebody had taken the papers to examine the case, but that file was missing. So the joint secretary wrote in that file that the file should be closed.
What did that particular
You are
file
talking about?
The one that went.
Yeah, the particular file means the police file on which the police investigation on which they had decided that should the case be reopened. That reopening file was missing.
Okay.
It was not with the Home Ministry. So they didn't take it. Nobody, after the change of no one, in fact, had taken any interest in the case or in the commission's findings.
Yeah. So the conspiracy theories were floated essentially to embarrass Mrs. Gandhi when she was in power.
But that can be one of the reasons, but we cannot, since the whole, according to Commission of Inquiry, you see the case remains in that sense, inconclusive. Nobody knows who did it, what was the purpose. So when we say conspiracy theories, we're not very sure. Those, of course, theories were there, but the theories were not followed. Of course, some of them were quite outlandish. But as Mr. Patra was saying in the earlier, context, the bureaucracy should have held people, accountable, and that's how if a file goes missing, it's a serious thing. But here it was a case because Indira Gandhi was back to power. So, raat gayi, baat gayi, let it be over. Nobody, obviously, Indira Gandhi would not, would recommend, restarting that whole investigation.
That one of the
But in any case, the police was not interested in reopening the case. In any case, the police was not interested in reopening the case.
Police was not interested.
That was also there.
Mr. Kidwai just mentioned, one of the outlandish theories was by this retired wing commander S.N. Rampal. I think he also mentioned he wanted to expose functionings of the bank, and that he also came to Express Building where I am sitting right now. He also came to his office in Bahadur Shah Zafar Mall with his own theory. The commission did not take him seriously, right?
No, the commission did take him seriously.
So my last question to both of you. obviously you did not arrive at any conclusion in the book, and it's not possible. But since you have gone through all the documents, all the records, both of you extensively, what would be your own assessment of what could have happened in this case? Your personal assessment.
Rasheed,
One is not, it's a very, you are a very shrewd interviewer, so you're asking this question. See, one thing is कि दाल में कुछ काला है, हाँ, मतलब that was very much there. Obviously, this, money of this magnitude could not have gone just like that. And but the good part was also that it came back. So whoever was going to be a beneficiary realized that things are out of it. So there was a cover up. That's why I'm saying I'm not a competent person, but somebody can, not only in this case, in other cases also, the role of deep state. What was deep state doing? Was there something? I'm not in a position to substantiate it, but perhaps that could be one of the reasons.
Mr. Patra?
well, one thing is, as being a crime reporter, I can say that Nagarwala was a crook. Okay. But the rest, it's very difficult to establish. There are many theories, many possibilities. There are allegations, counter allegations. Can't say. But looking as a crime reporter, if you look at the case, that yes, he was a perfect con man. That much I can say.
On that note, sir, thank you. If you could hold up the books once, if you are having it in front of you.
Oh, I don't have it right now.
I'll carry it.
I don't have it right now. Okay. Thanks, Rasheed.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was lovely talking to you.